In the shadows of antiquity, amid the whispers of centuries-old leaves and the echo of forgotten mysteries, lies a hidden narrative that glides like silk through the folds of time. Venture with me into the dark crossroads where myth and reality intertwine their hands in an eternal embrace. This is the gateway to the true story of the four fallen angels chained in the Euphrates River, a tale that hides in the depths of mythology, weaving threads of enigma and revelation. Imagine for a moment the rushing waters of the Euphrates, murmuring ancient secrets as they hold celestial beings prisoner, once dancers in the heavens. Four angels, banished from their realm of light, condemned to be silent spectators of human history as their wings fade into the fabric of time. Their chains resonate with echoes of a forgotten past, and their sighs mingle with the wind that blows through the ages. Join me on this journey of discovery, where the pages of time unfold like ancient scrolls, revealing hidden truths and unraveling the threads that connect our present to the whispers of those fallen angels. What secrets do the sacred waters of the Euphrates hold? What is the plot of this story intertwined with the very essence of existence? Prepare to dive into an ocean of mystery, where each wave reveals a new chapter of the truth that lies within the folds of time. Angels, spiritual beings of celestial nature, play a fundamental role in fulfilling divine mandates, serving God according to the teachings of the Bible. In the biblical narrative, these beings were created by God before the existence of the world and humanity, emphasizing their importance in the divine order. Their primary activity was to offer fervent worship and praise to God, while carrying out various assigned functions, prominently serving as messengers, guardians, and warriors. Within this celestial hierarchy, archangels emerged as prominent figures, recognized for their exceptional beauty, outstanding power, or profound wisdom. These archangels, as leaders of the heavenly armies, played a crucial role in executing divine tasks. Their existence and service were essential in fulfilling God's will in the universe. In this context, worship and reverence toward God were fundamental pillars of angelic life, with archangels leading this act of celestial devotion. The biblical narrative highlights how these celestial beings, in their perfection and purity, constituted a sublime manifestation of divine creation. It is worth mentioning that despite the sublime position of angels, not all remained faithful to God. Some, seduced by pride, envy, or ambition, chose to defy divine authority. These fallen angels, known for their deviation from light into darkness, became figures that triggered celestial conflicts and disobeyed God's will. Among them, Lucifer stands out, the most famous and powerful of the fallen angels, who desired to equal or surpass God, leading others in his rebellion. Thus, the history of angels, from their creation to the rebellion of some, reflects a narrative rich in details about the complexity and transcendence of these spiritual beings in the biblical worldview. However, the fidelity of angels to God was not universal, as a faction of these celestial beings, seduced by the forces of pride, envy, and unchecked ambition, chose to challenge supreme divine authority. This angelic schism resulted in the appearance of the so-called fallen angels, beings who, by renouncing the light emanating from the divine presence, plunged into the depths of darkness. This celestial rebellion, transcending the limits of eternity, has left an indelible mark on the biblical narrative, revealing the complexity of relationships between the divine and its celestial creatures. The Bible, as a source of spiritual wisdom, sheds light on four of the most prominent and feared fallen angels who emerged from this tragic episode: Lucifer, whose name means bearer of light; Semyaza, the one who sees God; Azazel, the one whom God strengthens; and Beelzebub, the lord of the flies. Lucifer, the most celebrated among the fallen angels, possessed not only extraordinary beauty, but also unparalleled power, being considered the angel closest to God in the celestial hierarchy. His name, meaning bearer of light, suggests his original role as an archangel, in charge of music and celestial singing. However, his insatiable desire to equal or even surpass God led him to rebellion and his subsequent fall. Semyaza, on the other hand, stood out among the fallen angels for his exceptional wisdom and insight into celestial secrets. According to the Book of Enoch, an apocryphal text referenced by some biblical authors, Semyaza led the Watchers, a celestial group that, instead of fulfilling its mission to watch over and teach humans, succumbed to forbidden desires by joining the daughters of men, thus violating divine law. Azazel, whose name means the one whom God strengthens, also joined the tragic rebellion of the fallen angels. This celestial being, known for courage and skills in the art of war, contributed to the corruption of the earth by teaching humans to manufacture weapons, armor, and engage in practices that led to violence and impiety. Beelzebub, the Lord of the Flies, appears as the last of the fallen angels mentioned in the Bible. His name suggests an association with repulsion and the grotesque, symbolizing his malicious and loathsome nature. In Jewish tradition, Beelzebub was worshipped by the Philistines as the god who possessed the power to cause or cure plagues, diseases, and pestilences. These fallen angels, despite their initial grandeur and proximity to the divine, plunged into darkness by turning away from celestial light. The Bible warns about the consequences of their disobedience, emphasizing the need to recognize the supremacy of God and the fragility of any attempt to challenge his authority. The richly symbolic and instructive biblical narrative paints an intriguing picture of the complex relationship between the divine and its celestial creatures, underscoring the importance of loyalty and humility before the Creator. Christian tradition casts Lucifer as a being who, despite his proximity to God, did not accept his assigned position. Instead of finding satisfaction in his role as a celestial archangel, he audaciously desired to equal or even surpass the supreme creator. This unrestrained desire led him down the path of rebellion, becoming the archetype of the fallen angel. The words of the prophet Isaiah bear witness to Lucifer's bold challenge. In his arrogance he proclaimed, "I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation. In the sides of the north I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High." These words encapsulate the pride and rebellion that fermented in Lucifer's heart, making him the protagonist of an unprecedented celestial rebellion. In his defiance against God, Lucifer was not alone. He managed to persuade a faction of the angels, seducing them with his rebellious rhetoric and boldly confronting the Creator in a celestial war. This act of disobedience marked the beginning of a tragic discord in the celestial realm, dividing the angels between those loyal to God and those who succumbed to Lucifer's temptations. Thus, Lucifer's story is not just the narrative of a fallen angel, but an epic tale revealing the complexities of angelic nature, the struggle between humility and excessive ambition, and the consequences of challenging divine authority. The divine response to Lucifer's rebellion was a manifestation of celestial justice. In his infinite wisdom and power, God did not tolerate insurrection in his celestial kingdom and unleashed divine intervention. He sent Archangel Michael, a celestial warrior of indomitable courage, along with legions of angels, to confront Lucifer and his followers in an unprecedented cosmic conflict. The biblical chronicle immerses us in the epicenter of this celestial war, where a titanic conflict unfolds between the celestial hosts loyal to God and the rebel forces led by Lucifer. The sacred text narrates, "There was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail." This celestial confrontation was not only a physical battle, but also a clash of wills and fundamental principles. The defeat of Lucifer and his followers in this celestial conflict marked a point of no return. The Bible recounts that there was no longer any place for them in heaven, and the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. This divine expulsion of Lucifer and his fallen angels carries a sense of divine judgment and sets the stage for the destiny of these rebellious beings. The earth then became the new realm for these fallen angels, who, stripped of their celestial splendor, transformed into demons. This turn of events underscores the gravity of celestial disobedience and the consequent fall of these once radiant beings. The biblical narrative plunges us into the depths of this transformation, depicting how the former bearer of light becomes the deceiver, Satan, and his followers, as shadows lurking in earthly darkness. The metamorphosis of Lucifer, once the radiant bearer of light, into Satan, the cunning and malevolent adversary, marked a transcendental turn in celestial history. From the moment of his fall, Satan has undertaken a ruthless campaign to seduce and lead humanity astray, dragging it onto the path of sin and perdition. His diabolical strategy focuses on undermining the connection between humans and God, sowing discord, doubts, and temptations in their hearts. The Bible, a witness to this sinister transformation, presents him as the ultimate enemy of God and his people. Satan, the prince of this world, stands as the undisputed leader of the forces of evil, weaving his web of deceit and schemes into the tapestry of earthly existence. His influence extends like an ominous shadow over humanity, perpetuating the struggle between good and evil. The attributes assigned to Satan in the Bible reveal his insidious nature. He is called the Father of Lies, a title that encapsulates his ability to distort the truth and confuse human minds. Furthermore, he is recognized as the god of this age, hinting at his subtle but persistent presence in temporal and worldly structures. The image of the roaring lion seeking whom he may devour evokes the ferocity and voracity with which Satan stalks humanity. As a spiritual predator, he is constantly on the prowl, seeking those who may fall prey to his tricks and deceptions. This biblical portrait emphasizes the urgency of spiritual resistance and constant vigilance against the wiles of this cunning adversary. Thus, the figure of Satan emerges as a formidable antagonist whose purpose is to divert humanity from the righteous path and lead it toward perdition. His role as the architect of evil and the enemy of truth sets a challenging stage for those seeking fidelity to God and redemption amidst the cosmic struggle between the forces of good and evil. Semyaza stands out as an intriguing figure among the fallen angels, emerging as one of the prominent leaders in the celestial rebellion. His name, imbued with profound meaning as the one who sees God, hints at a special connection with celestial wisdom and a deep understanding of divine mysteries. This title reveals not only his preeminent position among the angels, but also his role as a privileged observer of heavenly truths. Although the narrative of Semyaza is primarily found in the Book of Enoch, an apocryphal text that, while not part of the Bible, has been cited by some biblical scholars, his presence and leadership in the rebellion acquire considerable significance. The description of Semyaza as the chief of the Watchers adds an additional layer of complexity to his figure, suggesting that his role was not only prominent among the fallen angels in general, but also had a specific responsibility over the Watchers, a celestial group sent by God to watch over and teach humans. This more detailed focus on the figure of Semyaza enriches the narrative of the celestial rebellion, presenting him as a strategic leader and a bearer of celestial knowledge. His active involvement in decision-making during the rebellion, as interpreted from apocryphal texts, adds nuances to his personality and highlights his unique position among the fallen angels. Thus, the account of Semyaza becomes a fascinating piece that, while not canonical, sheds light on the complexities of the celestial rebellion and the diversity of roles among the fallen angels. Exploring his role as the one who sees God enhances the understanding of his unique perspective and his possible influence on the cosmic events that shape the destiny of these celestial beings. In this captivating tale, the Watchers, a celestial group sent by God with the noble task of watching and teaching humanity, take center stage in a story of transgression and defiance of divine law, led by the intriguing Semyaza. The narrative unfolds in a setting where the multiplication of the sons of men coincides with the appearance of beautiful and alluring daughters. Semyaza, occupying a central role as the leader of the Watchers, faces an ethical crossroads when these celestial beings, upon beholding the beauty of the daughters of men, succumb to desire and attraction. The narrative reveals their fear of the potential consequence of bearing a great sin if they persist in their desires. However, temptation and stubbornness prevail, leading the Watchers to seal their commitment with a solemn oath under the weight of a curse. The story takes an intriguing turn by detailing that a total of 200 angels, including Semyaza and the Watchers, descend upon Ardis, the summit of Mount Hermon, giving life to a narrative that goes beyond mere transgression. These angels, driven by their choice, take women from among the daughters of men, unleashing a chain of events that will alter the course of history. The plot intensifies by revealing that the Watchers not only defy divine restrictions by joining human women, but also share forbidden celestial knowledge with them and their children. From astrology to magic, from the properties of plants to the mastery of the arts of jewelry, these fallen angels transmit celestial secrets that will unleash consequences of cosmic proportions. Thus, the story becomes an epic tale, full of twists and revelations, where the transgression of the Watchers not only impacts the celestial sphere, but also leaves an indelible mark on humanity, shaping a narrative that transcends the divine and the earthly. The narrative plunges into a dark chapter, where the knowledge transmitted by the fallen angels, led by the enigmatic Semyaza, unleashes catastrophic consequences on the earth. Unfortunately, the celestial wisdom shared by the Watchers, instead of leading to prosperity, becomes a tool for evil. The earth, once imbued with divine light, is now plunged into an abyss of violence, corruption, and impiety. The offspring resulting from the union between the Watchers and human women, known as the Nephilim, emerge as colossal giants unleashing chaos, indiscriminately devouring humans and animals. Destruction spreads like an ominous shadow over the land, manifesting in the uncontrolled voracity of these colossal beings. The narrative delves into a heartbreaking reality by revealing that the Nephilim, in their immense magnitude, not only consume the fruits of human labor, but become a devouring threat that the population cannot contain. The earth becomes the stage for ruthless conflicts, where the giants, driven by their insatiable appetite, turn against humans, unleashing acts of cannibalism and atrocious sins against creatures and nature itself. The Book of Enoch details how the giants, in their uncontrolled frenzy, not only feed on the flesh of their own kind, but also commit impious acts against birds, beasts, reptiles, and fish. The narrative reaches a climax by describing the horrifying scene of the Nephilim consuming each other and drinking their own blood, plunging the earth into a spiral of depravity and destruction. Thus, the story unfolds as an epic tragedy, where fallen knowledge leads humanity down a path of desolation and despair, marking a crucial point in the relationship between heaven and earth. Against the dark backdrop of a land steeped in violence and corruption, the unwavering echo of accusations resonated from its depths, a silent yet eloquent accusation pointing to the havoc caused by the transgressive acts of the Nephilim and the fallen angels, led by Semyaza. The earth, as a silent witness, cried out against the wickedness that had been unleashed within it. The fallen angels and their nefarious actions became a sorrow for God, who, in a moment of deep regret, repented of creating both humanity and those celestial beings who defied his will. This divine repentance, a manifestation of pain at the creation that deviated from his design, precipitated a transcendental decision: the sending of the universal flood. The divine response to the corruption plaguing the earth took the form of a devastating flood that would sweep away all forms of life, a deluge that would cleanse the face of the planet from the evil and impiety that had enveloped it. However, amidst this divine wrath, a ray of hope shone in the figure of Noah and his family, who, due to their righteousness and obedience to God, were chosen to preserve the seed of humanity and creation. This chapter of history, marked by divine repentance and purification through the flood, illustrates the transcendent interaction between God and his creation, where justice, mercy, and the need to restore lost harmony converge in a divine act that redefines the course of existence on earth. Amidst the dark and ominous panorama of celestial disobedience embodied by Semyaza and the Watchers, divine justice manifested itself in an inevitable series of punishments. God, in his sovereignty and righteousness, did not overlook the rebellion of these fallen beings. The chain of events that unfolded led to the condemnation of Semyaza and the Watchers, who, in an act of divine authority, were chained and relegated to the abyss, a place steeped in darkness and torment, where they await the inexorable final judgment. At that critical moment, the Most High, the Great and the Holy, issued his instructions through the archangel Uriel. The urgent mission led him to the dwelling of Lamech, and the divine message resonated with the gravity of an unavoidable destiny. Noah, a righteous and obedient man, became the recipient of the celestial warning. God instructed him to hide, to shield himself from the imminent catastrophe looming over the earth. The divine message revealed the impending devastation. The waters of the flood would be unleashed, annihilating all forms of life in a divine purification. Noah, designated as the bearer of preservation, received the sacred command to escape and become the custodian of the seed that would ensure the continuity of humanity in future generations. Thus, amid the darkness that enveloped Semyaza and the Watchers, the light of divine mercy emerged, offering Noah and his descendants an opportunity for renewal and the continuation of life in a new chapter of history. Facing the ominous scenario looming over Semyaza, the leader of the Watchers, the divine verdict took shape with relentless precision. The Lord, in his majesty and justice, entrusted the archangel Raphael with the task of executing divine punishment upon Semyaza. The divine mandate involved securely binding Semyaza's hands and feet, plunging him into the deepest darkness, thus creating a desolate abyss in the barren landscape of Dudale. The creation of this desolate place was not a coincidence but a manifestation of divine will. Raphael, fulfilling the Most High's order, covered the place with rough and sharp stones, symbolizing the severity of the punishment befalling Semyaza. This place in the desert, imbued with perpetual darkness, became Semyaza's eternal abode, his face covered so that light could not penetrate. The divine sentence was clear and unequivocal. Semyaza was to remain there forever, shrouded in the undisturbed darkness of the desert, until the day of the great judgment arrived. In that culminating moment, divine wrath would manifest with the final condemnation. Semyaza would be cast into the fire, facing the full extent of his punishment for the committed transgressions. Thus, amid the desolation of divine punishment, justice prevailed over Semyaza, the fallen leader of the Watchers. At that critical moment when the wickedness of the fallen angels and humanity reached unsustainable proportions, the earth stood as a witness and accuser of rampant corruption. The divine creation, tarnished by the sinful actions of the Watchers and their Nephilim, cried out for justice. It was in this context that God, in his omniscience and compassion, proclaimed his divine will to heal the earth. The Lord, in an act of mercy, determined that the earth would not be completely destroyed by the flood that he had already prepared for it. This divine decree echoed as a grace-filled resonance over creation, indicating that despite the wickedness that had invaded it, there was room for restoration and healing. God, in his unfathomable wisdom, chose not to extinguish all forms of life through the cataclysm of the flood. Thus, amid the darkness that enveloped the fallen angels and the corruption permeating humanity, the promise of healing and preservation emerged as a beacon of hope. The earth, which had witnessed disobedience and depravity, received the divine promise that it would not be entirely annihilated. This divine act marked a turning point in the narrative, revealing the complexity of divine justice and mercy. At that crucial moment, the Lord, in his divine omniscience, directed the archangel Michael to communicate the heartbreaking prophecy to Semyaza and his associates that would plunge them into the deepest contamination due to their impurities. The divine sentence echoed as a warning, anticipating a destiny of self-annihilation for the descendants of these fallen angels. The divine revelation proclaimed that, in the chaos generated by their own offspring, they would experience the desolation of their family ties, witnessing the destruction looming over their loved ones. The condemnation that awaited them was to remain bound for 70 generations, confined beneath the hills of the earth. This punishment, designed with divine precision, implied a prolonged wait in the depths of darkness, where time stretched until the day of their judgment and consummation. Captives of the curse they had invoked themselves, they would wait in the shadows, marked by the inevitability of facing eternal judgment. This divine decree not only announced an imminent punishment, but also outlined the extent of their suffering, condemning them to a shadowy existence until the appointed day for their final judgment. Divine justice manifested with the certainty that, despite their defiant actions, the consummation of their destiny was firmly guided by the divine hand. In those times, the divine sentence was revealed with relentless certainty. The inhabitants of the abyss would be drawn into the flames and plunged into ceaseless torment in a place of punishment that lacked an end. Semyaza and the Watchers, as architects of their own downfall, faced the irrevocable condemnation of God. The execution of this divine justice was relentless, marking the eternal destiny of those who had defied celestial authority. The flood, a direct consequence of the corruption unleashed by Semyaza and his followers, took care of eradicating the Nephilim, descendants of the illicit union between the Watchers and the daughters of men. Despite this devastating purification, some of these beings managed to evade complete extinction and transformed into malevolent spirits. Wandering in the twilight of the world, these beings persisted, lurking in the ceaseless search for bodies to inhabit and souls to corrupt. The essence of evil, rooted in the actions of Semyaza and his followers, persisted in the fabric of the universe, manifesting in these malevolent spirits. Their existence became an ominous shadow, perpetuating the legacy of rebellion against the divine. The divine narrative thus revealed that, although the purifying flood had swept away much of the corruption, the roots of evil still clung to the world, manifesting in these wandering and malevolent entities. Semyaza, the archetype of perverted wisdom, unholy curiosity, and unrestrained lust, stands as a sinister symbol of celestial corruption. His name resonates with the amalgamation of twisted knowledge, fueling malevolent intrigue and unbridled desires that, in his rebellion, plunged humanity into an abyss of depravity. However, his dark influence does not stop there, but extends like an insidious shadow permeating existence, weaving the fabric of evil throughout the ages. In contrast, Azazel, another fallen figure, emerges with a name that carries the resonance of divine strength. This angel, labeled as one of the most fearsome among the fallen, bears a designation suggesting courage and prowess in the art of war. His rebellion manifests as a direct challenge to celestial authority, an attempt to usurp the power residing in divine strength. Azazel, in his role as the supreme warrior among the fallen angels, rises as a symbol of defiance and resistance, carrying the imprint of a cosmic conflict reverberating through the ages. According to the ancient pages of the Book of Enoch, Azazel, distinguished among the fallen watchers, emerges as a dark master who descends from the heavens to plunge humanity into the depths of celestial corruption. His role transcends mere transgression, becoming an architect of depravity and discord. The narrative reveals that Azazel not only shared celestial secrets with women, but notably excelled in instructing men in the forging of weapons, the creation of armor, and the crafting of shields. This fallen angel, with his cunning and masterful skills, sowed the seeds of violence in the human heart, shaping a world permeated by the tumult of war and strife. Yet, his influence is not confined to the realm of warfare. Azazel also meddled in the most intimate aspects of everyday life, guiding women in the art of aesthetics. From eye painting to hair dyeing, and from the use of jewelry to the adoption of ornaments, Azazel wove the web of vanity and idolatry, marking the rise of practices that diverted humanity from the righteous path. Thus, Azazel stands as a master architect of corruption, whose teachings pervert both the arts of war and human aesthetics, establishing his legacy as a dark artisan who shaped the destiny of humanity with his forbidden knowledge. Azazel, the intriguing figure among the fallen watchers, emerges as the supreme master of forbidden arts, unraveling celestial secrets and delivering them to humanity with a generosity that led to perdition. According to the ancient scriptures of the Book of Enoch, Azazel not only shared celestial knowledge, but excelled in teaching men the art of forging and craftsmanship. Delving into the depths of celestial blacksmithing, Azazel imparted wisdom on the creation of deadly weapons, from sharp swords to lethal knives, as well as protective shields and impenetrable armor. His teaching extended to the alchemy of earthly metals, revealing the mysteries of blacksmithing and the manipulation of elements. But Azazel's knowledge did not stop on the battlefield. It also penetrated the most intimate aspects of everyday life. From ornate bracelets to dazzling jewelry, Azazel guided humanity in creating ornaments to adorn their bodies. He even delved into the aesthetic sphere, teaching the use of antimony to beautify eyelids and sharing secrets about gemstones and colored dyes. These teachings, though a forbidden treasure, led to the proliferation of impiety and the corruption of customs. Humanity, misled by unrestrained lust and an obsession with vanity, plunged into perverse paths, following in the footsteps of Azazel on the path to perdition. The divine punishment for Azazel, the bearer of evil, was relentless and exemplary. Faced with the magnitude of his sins and his role in the corruption of the earth, God, in his unwavering justice, decreed his fate at the hands of the archangel Raphael. In a scene described in the Book of Enoch, the Lord gave the specific order to bind Azazel's hands and feet, depriving him of all freedom and subjecting him to celestial authority. Raphael, obeying the divine will, carried out Azazel's condemnation with divine precision. He was cast into the darkness of the desert, in Dudael, a place marked by desolation and despair. The words of the Lord resonated in the opening created for Azazel, and his body was covered with rough and sharp stones, symbolizing the harshness of his punishment. Plunged into eternal darkness, he was denied the vision of light, preparing him for the day of the great judgment. The divine judgment on Azazel transcends the pages of the Book of Enoch and is reflected in the Holy Scriptures, specifically in the Book of Leviticus. In the ritual of the Day of Atonement, the holiest day for the Jews, Azazel is mentioned. His figure, associated with the atonement of sins, reveals itself as a fundamental part of the sacred narrative, reminding of the condemnation imposed by God as an eternal reminder of the gravity of his transgressions. On the solemn commemoration of the Day of Atonement, a day of profound reverence for the Jewish people, the ritual designated for Azazel unfolded with an impressive symbolic weight. The high priest, vested with divine authority, stood at the center of this crucial ceremony. Two male goats, representing the two opposing paths of atonement, were the focal point. One, designated for the Lord, was offered as a sin offering, bearing the expiatory burden of human transgression. Its blood, sprinkled on the mercy seat, was a testimony to the sacrifice appeasing divine justice. The other male goat, destined for Azazel, embodied the dark side of atonement. Alive and in the presence of the Lord, this male goat carried the responsibility of bearing the sins into the wilderness, where Azazel, the fallen angel, resided. The high priest, as an intercessor between the people and God, laid hands on the head of the male goat to confess all the iniquities of the children of Israel, symbolically transferring guilt to the bearer of evil. This ceremonial act, detailed in the Book of Leviticus, highlighted the duality of atonement: redemption through sacrifice and the expulsion of evil into the wilderness. It was a graphic representation of the complexity of the relationship between humanity, God, and Azazel, emphasizing the need for reconciliation and purification in fulfilling divine justice. The annual ritual of the Day of Atonement, with its symbolic nuances and profound meaning, emerges as a key ceremony that delineates boundaries between the sacred and the profane, between divine grace and the dark presence of Azazel. In contemplating this ritual, diverse interpretations unfold, adding layers of complexity to the nature of Azazel. Some scholars suggest that the mention of Azazel could refer to a place in the desert rather than a being, considering it as a remote location, a geographical metaphor symbolizing separation and exclusion from the divine. This perspective views Azazel as a desolate region, far from divine benevolence, and not necessarily as a being with its own entity. In contrast, another stream of interpretation maintains that Azazel is the name of a fallen angel, embodying violence, vanity, and idolatry. From this perspective, Azazel stands as the antagonist of God and his people, personifying vices that threaten spirituality and communion with the divine. In this context, Azazel represents not only a geographical place, but also a spiritual entity that influences human behavior toward deviation and sin. Thus, the Day of Atonement becomes a symbolic stage where the struggle between the sacred and the profane, between God and Azazel, unfolds, carrying with it a load of theological and moral reflection on the nature of guilt and the need for purification. Beelzebub, the enigmatic lord of the flies, emerges as a figure whose essence is shrouded in mystery. His name, connoting disgust and aversion, adds a dark nuance to his identity. In the intricate web of Jewish beliefs, Beelzebub arises as the god of the Philistines, a people who, from the city of Ekron, rivaled Israel and fervently worshipped him. The Philistine perspective on Beelzebub places him in a prominent role as the bearer of powers to unleash plagues as well as to heal diseases and pestilences. This divinity, seen as the supreme lord of demons, occupied a prominent space in the Philistine pantheon. The city of Ekron, the epicenter of his worship, became the place where the Philistines paid homage to Beelzebub, seeking his intervention in earthly affairs. The Bible, in a narrative revealing divine interaction, recounts how the Philistines, witnessing the manifestation of the Lord's strong hand upon them and their god Dagon, decided to send the ark of the God of Israel to Gath. However, this transfer did not bring relief, but caused great distress in the city, afflicting the inhabitants with tumors and afflictions. This narrative presents a duality between the God of Israel and Beelzebub, outlining a confrontation between two divine powers. The story, rich in symbolism and meaning, reveals the tension between religious beliefs and practices, shedding light on the complex relationship between Beelzebub and the Jewish divinity. The biblical chronicle unravels the account of the inhabitants of Ashdod, who, terrified by the relentless hand of the God of Israel upon them and their idol Dagon, chose not to retain the ark of the God of Israel. Aware of the divine severity falling upon them, they opted to send the ark first to Gath and then to Ekron, seeking to distance themselves from the presence of this divinity that unleashed affliction. However, the transfer of the ark did not mitigate divine fury. On the contrary, it caused significant distress and affliction in the city of Ekron. The magnitude of divine punishment was felt across all strata of society, from the smallest to the greatest. This episode underscores the inexorable reality of divine intervention and its ability to reach all those who seek to evade its presence. The narrative, shrouded in symbolism and meaning, highlights the transcendence of the relationship between mortals and the God of Israel. The account continues with the transfer of the Ark of God to Ekron, triggering a reaction of fear and alarm among the city's inhabitants. The expression of their fear resonated in a chorus of voices that feared the possibility that the Ark of the God of Israel had been brought there with the intention of causing death to both them and their people. This widespread fear led to an urgent summons of all the Philistine princes, who, sharing the distress of the population, felt compelled to find a solution to prevent further human losses. In the assembly of princes, the decision was made to return the Ark of the God of Israel to its original place. This resolution was based on the desire to end the increasing mortality plaguing the city. The intensity of the hand of God manifested itself relentlessly in Ekron, with the imposition of tumors and afflictions affecting the entire population. This episode highlights the inevitable repercussion of divine presence and human quest for salvation in the face of its inescapable intervention. Faced with persistent suffering and questioning the power of the God of Israel, the inhabitants of Ekron decided to take concrete measures to seek a solution to their situation. Aware of the reputation of the God of Israel, they remembered how he punished the Egyptians with plagues in the desert and felt the need to find a way to appease his wrath. With this purpose in mind, they devised a detailed plan to build a new cart that would be used to transport the Ark of the Lord. 2 unyoked cows, symbols of purity and freedom, would be hitched to the cart, carrying the ark along with gold offerings placed in a box. The destination of the cart would be Beth Shemesh, the homeland of the ark, and its journey would be a crucial indicator of the connection between the affliction they were enduring and the will of God. The hope of the inhabitants of Ekron rested on the direction the ark would take when transported back to Beth Shemesh. If it ascended the road towards its homeland, they would interpret it as a clear message that the hand of God was behind their affliction. Conversely, if the ark did not follow that path, they would consider the misfortune befalling them as merely a fortuitous accident. This plan stood as an attempt to understand and reconcile with the God whose actions so directly impacted their lives. Faced with God's non-acceptance of their offerings to Beelzebub and the persistence of plagues and deaths in their land, the Philistines found themselves immersed in uncertainty and fear. With the desire to end divine affliction, they summoned priests and diviners seeking guidance on how to deal with the Ark of the Lord, which seemed to be the source of their misfortune. The counselors, knowledgeable about rituals and customs, suggested a strategy to send the Ark back to its place of origin, Israel. The key, according to them, lay not in sending the Ark empty, but in paying an offering of atonement. This act, they believed, could appease divine wrath and bring healing to the afflicted Philistine city. The offering of atonement would not only be a gesture of humility and repentance, but also a way to decipher why the hand of God continued to weigh upon them. Thus, the Philistines found themselves in a spiritual quest, trying to understand divine designs and find a solution that would restore peace and prosperity to their land. The consultation with priests and diviners reflected their longing for reconciliation with God and the hope of ending the suffering that plagued their city. Eager to find a solution to end their suffering, the Philistines delved into the planning of the atonement offering recommended by the counselors. The question of what type of offering they should present was answered with precise details. They were to prepare 5 golden tumors and 5 golden mice. This symbolic choice had a specific purpose, to represent the same plague affecting everyone in the city. The counselors explained that by presenting these figures symbolizing the tumors and mice plaguing the land, they could reflect the reality of the affliction they were experiencing. Additionally, the number of offerings was directly related to the Philistine princes, adding a ceremonial and symbolic element to the atonement offering. The intention behind this ritual act was twofold: to seek reconciliation with the God of Israel and, at the same time, to alleviate the divine hand weighing upon them, their gods and their land. The hope was that by offering this offering with sincerity and reverence, they could find mercy and restoration in their lives and city. The wisdom of the Philistine counselors was reflected in the warning they shared with the leaders and inhabitants of Ekron. They recalled the story of the Egyptians and the Pharaoh, who, despite facing similar plagues, hardened their hearts and refused to release the Israelites. The lesson drawn from this biblical narrative was clear. They should not follow the same stubborn path that led to the destruction of Egypt. The connection with Beelzebub deepened further in the New Testament narrative, where the Pharisees, prominent Jewish religious leaders, accused Jesus of casting out demons by the power of Beelzebub, the prince of demons. This accusation underscored the complexity and enmity between divine and malevolent forces, drawing a parallel with the situation of the Philistines and their quest for atonement. At this spiritual crossroads, the Philistines faced the crucial decision, not to follow the obstinate path of the Egyptians, but to open their hearts to the possibility of reconciliation and redemption, seeking the grace of the God of Israel amid their affliction. Faced with the unfounded accusations of the Pharisees, Jesus responded with wisdom, discrediting the absurd idea that he expelled demons by the power of Beelzebub. In a revealing act of his divinity, a demon-possessed blind and mute man was brought before Jesus, and he, through the power of the Spirit of God, performed an extraordinary miracle. The demon-possessed, who previously lacked vision and speech, was astonishingly healed, regaining both sight and the ability to speak. The impact of this miracle left the witnessing crowd perplexed. Amidst murmurs and disbelief, the question lingered in the air: could this be the expected son of David? The connection with messianic prophecy generated anticipation and amazement among those witnessing the wonders performed by Jesus. In the face of the persistent accusation from the Pharisees, Jesus responded with depth, pointing out the logical inconsistency in their claims. With keen wisdom, He reminded them that a divided kingdom cannot stand, and a divided city or house is destined for ruin. If he were casting out demons by the power of Beelzebub, as the Pharisees insinuated, he would be undermining the stability of his own demonic kingdom, which would be contradictory. Jesus took his argument further by questioning his accusers. If he, by the Spirit of God, cast out demons, then by whom did the sons of the Pharisees do it? This question left the Pharisees in an uncomfortable situation, exposing the inconsistency of their criticisms. Jesus, with his sharpness, suggested that if his adversaries acknowledged that others cast out demons by the power of God, they should reconsider their unfounded accusations. In the midst of the dispute, Jesus established the divine authority behind his actions, challenging false interpretations and highlighting the incoherence in the Pharisees' accusations. Jesus, in continuing his response, emphasized that if he cast out demons by the Spirit of God, it indicated that the kingdom of God had come to earth. At this point, he identified Beelzebub as the fallen angel who personifies disease, impurity, and idolatry, being the lord of the flies and the leader of demons. In this way, he summarized the connection between Beelzebub and the other three fallen angels mentioned in the Bible: Lucifer, Semyaza, and Azazel. Lucifer, initially the bearer of light who rebelled and became Satan, the adversary. Semyaza, the angel who sees God and leader of the Watchers. Azazel, known as the one whom God strengthens and who transformed into the Lord of Plagues, and Beelzebub, the Lord of Flies, who ascended to be the prince of demons. All these beings, according to the Bible, are considered enemies of God and his people, responsible for numerous evils in the world. Although these fallen angels have unleashed suffering, the Bible proclaims that they will not have the final say. Their destiny is marked by defeat and eternal punishment, as stated in the Scriptures. The biblical narrative points toward an ending in which divine justice will prevail over evil, providing comfort and hope to those who follow the faith. In the biblical vision, the arrival of an angel descending from heaven is described, carrying the key to the abyss and a large chain. This angel performs a significant act by seizing the dragon, identified as the ancient serpent, the devil, and Satan. This malevolent being is securely bound for 1,000 years and is cast into the abyss, sealed so that during that time it cannot deceive the nations any longer. This period of 1,000 years, known as the millennium, represents a symbolic time of peace and divine justice, where the devil is restricted from exercising his deceptive influence over humanity. However, the vision also anticipates that at the end of these 1,000 years, the devil will be released for a brief time, suggesting that the struggle between good and evil is not completely eradicated, but experiences a temporary moment of restraint before a final confrontation. The vision continues with the presence of thrones and those invested with the authority to judge. The souls of those who, due to their steadfast testimony of Jesus and devotion to the Word of God, were beheaded, are observed. These individuals stand out for not bowing to worship the beast or its image, also avoiding receiving the distinctive mark on their foreheads or hands. This select group not only experiences resurrection, but lives and reigns with Christ for an extensive period of 1,000 years. This event marks the beginning of the first resurrection, granting special blessedness and holiness to those who participate in it. The second death has no dominion over these individuals. Instead, they are elevated to the honorable role of priests of God and of Christ, sharing in the reign with him throughout the entire millennium. As the end of these 1,000 years approaches, Satan will be released from the prison that contained him and will deploy his cunning to deceive the nations situated in the four corners of the earth, including Gog and Magog, rallying them to participate in an epic battle. Their number will be so vast that it will resemble the countless sand of the sea, surrounding both the camp of the saints and the beloved city of God. However, this apparent challenge will be short-lived, as fire will descend from heaven to consume those who have risen against the saints and the divine city. The deceiver, along with the beast and the false prophet, will face their final destiny as they are irreversibly cast into the lake of fire and sulfur, where they will experience ceaseless torment day and night for eternity, marking the culmination of their rebellion and wickedness. This conclusion reveals God's inexorable victory over the forces of evil and the definitive triumph of his people, who, despite adversities, have persevered and prevailed. This striking conclusion brings an end to the overarching narrative of the fallen angels, highlighting the supreme victory of God and his people over the forces of evil. If you have enjoyed this revealing information about the 4 fallen angels of the Bible, we invite you to show your appreciation by liking our channel. Share this video so that others can also delve into this fascinating spiritual story. Moreover, if you yearn to explore more equally interesting topics or have suggestions for future content, we would love to hear your comments. Your participation is essential to continue offering relevant and enriching content. Until the next installment, where we will continue exploring the mysteries and teachings offered by the Bible and other fascinating themes.